3, 2, and go.
Powered by Riverside.
Hello and welcome into the Sad Fan, where we talk about the good, the bad, and everything that made you sad from the previous week. And there's so much to talk about. We've got regular NBA basketball going on. We've got an NBA in-season tournament, which I talked about a little bit last week. We've got college basketball back with Kansas about to knock off Kentucky. There is so much going on, and I suppose, do you guys think basketball is sad that it doesn't matter till after football season?
Oh, that's a low blow, but
it matters to some people, just not football fans.
Or fans of overall sports, I think, right? Like, I think we have a hierarchy in American overall sports, and unfortunately, the NFL just kind of
unless you're from Texas and you really care about those teenagers playing football in high school, during the week is a great time to watch basketball.
The Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, because you got normal football on Saturday and Sunday, so during the week you got basketball you can watch. So it works out.
Now, there was one story that I wanted to say, Wes, that I want to talk to you about in the NBA really quick. Did you see Dylan Brooks is back at it with LeBron James and his ability to guard LeBron James? Is that where you're at with this story? Because Dylan Brooks,
I don't care about him anymore. I don't care about him anymore.
That is Wes's face, Josh.
Can we just stop talking about him?
For the audience that is listening, Josh just physically showed you through his verbal interpretation of Wes's face what Wes is doing. But I don't think we're ever going to be rid of him because someone was willing to pay Dylan Brooks $80 million.
Let's stop talking about him. Who cares what he does?
How many
until he actually does something significant?
Oh, sorry.
What kind of albums can we buy, Josh?
How many Spice Girls albums could you buy with $80 million?
It depends on where we go. Yeah, maybe
80 million albums.
80 million might be the right answer there. But speaking of $80 million, there was another person that just walked away without having to do any work and is getting paid $80 million. Wes, what do you have for us on this Jimbo Fisher story of him getting to just steal?
He did work.
Did he?
For the last 6 seasons, I think. He had a team that showed up.
Yeah.
They won some games. They had one good season where the COVID year where they went 9-1.
What sport are we
talking about? And that's when they decided to throw him a fat extension. They were like, "Oh, you went 9-1 during COVID. Here, have $80 million over 10 years guaranteed."
So for some context, for some backstory for this, Jimbo Fisher was the head coach after Bobby Bowden of Florida State Seminoles. Jimbo Fisher had a quarterback who was a great college quarterback, not so great NFL quarterback, named Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston won Jimbo Fisher a national championship and then went on to win Jimbo Fisher a multi-million-dollar contract with an nearly $80 million buyout. Okay? So Jimbo Fisher then goes on to never win an SEC championship. Wes, I don't think he ever played an SEC title game. Did he ever play an SEC title game?
No, he never won a ranked team. Or he never beat a ranked team on the road either.
So he gets paid now to go off into the sunset, and there's no clause here that says he can't accept another job. He can actually accept another job, get paid more millions of dollars on top of already getting paid out $80 million. And Wes, I forgot the language here in his contract. He's getting paid out in the next 45 days, right? The $80 million in full?
No, he's getting 25% as a lump sum, and then I think the remaining 75% is spread out over annually.
That is just...
But that's still $20 million he gets right up front.
That is absolutely insane.
That's a lot of million, dog.
It's something like $5,000 an hour, if you factor in a 40-hour work week.
Well, I say all that about Jimbo Fisher, not just to be amazed that someone that can be such a loser could make so much money. And he's 58 years old, so he could literally just ride off into the sunset.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring
Why
up...
not?
I mean, like, I'm not saying I wouldn't do it if I could. Right? If I could just get one good season and have that carry me throughout life. Like...
But for the most part, college coaches and professional coaches, there's something a little wrong up here. And so even if they're making like millions for doing nothing, they're still going to work because they don't feel like they have purpose unless they're coaching football.
Yeah, who's the orange man? Shanahan from the Broncos, right? Way back when?
Yeah.
Yeah, that donkey, he went to college after the NFL. There's something wrong with you if you go to college after the NFL for a better career choice.
Mike Shanahan never went to college football.
Nick Saban went to college football after
I'm sorry
out.
if he did not.
Gotcha.
I might be mistaken, but there was offers that didn't, I guess, pan out. But that's part of why he retired from the Donkeys. Like,
college coaches will no. He retired and then went on to Washington to be their head coach. But college coaches make significantly more money than NFL coaches, and college football coaches have complete control over their university and over their.
So I mean, that's where it kind of gets dicey because we don't know how much NFL coaches make.
Because it doesn't have to be reported.
It doesn't?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's like Saudi money?
Yeah. They don't have to report.
Yeah, it's a private, like private company, but with college, it's a state university, so.
Yeah. They can do a lot of under the tables, like, oh, you mopped the closet, so here's $15,000, head quarterback. Yeah.
Well, there's rumors that Bill Belichick was making near $25 million a year at certain times with the Patriots.
So, but he still wore a gray, dingy ass sweater. His entire put on a tie, mother effer.
Yeah, and when we talk about this, it's interesting to see all of the Patriots players now that are allowed to talk, right? That are now talking, and Gronkowski is one of those players. And this is transition, but it is kind of linked to what we were talking about in coaches getting their full contract after they get fired, because Rob Gronkowski, former Patriot, tight end.
You said Gronkowski, so I said Gronky. Sorry.
One of the best tight ends to ever play the game, right? Comes out and he says that he doesn't think coaches should get paid the full contract after they get fired because it's BS. Because the players, if they were to get hurt, lose that money. They don't get their full contract guaranteed. And it wasn't a shocker that he said this. I think most players have a right and do feel this way. The shocker was who he said it about. Wes, do you know who he was talking about?
Probably Belichick.
No, he was talking about Josh Mickey D's. Because that's about all Josh McDaniels is worth, is the dollar menu at McDonald's.
You mean the greatest coach in the history of the Raiders?
Are we talking crap about the dollar menu? Hold on now.
No. I'm saying he's a value menu Bill Belichick, is what I'm saying. If you follow Josh McDaniels' career as it goes through head coaching, he's terrible. He's been terrible. But the one story that I gave you guys last week on the pod was the one that amazed me. Let me catch the crew up today. There was a players and coaches meeting, with the Las Vegas Raiders, that Josh McDaniels wanted to have the players air out their grievances and everything that's going on and their irritations, right? And a lot of it was apparent. This is reported from reputable sources to include Adam Schefter. They were just going in on Josh McDaniels, going in and just tearing him up. All the players were irritated with Josh McDaniels, with his system, with how he treats the players, with how the team's gone since he took over, right? And then, instead of speaking for himself, Josh McDaniels chose to have Antonio Pierce speak for him. Antonio Pierce famously on the New York Giants team that beat the 17-0 Patriots in the Super Bowl. He draws on that experience to give his speech about how you can't give up, you can't ever count yourself out, you got to always think you can be in it to win it, and if you have that mentality, you can really beat anybody on any given Sunday. And when he was finished giving his speech, Josh McDaniels didn't say thank you. He didn't say, this is Las Vegas, we're the Raiders. He pulled Antonio Pierce aside and said, don't you ever talk about the Patriots like that again. And that's
a weird story.
That's a weird response.
Isn't it?
Why are you loyal to a team like that? That's weird.
that you're not on and you're not coaching and you're not a part of anymore, and you're now the head, you're the leader of a new team. You're looked at as the leader of a new team, and you're just like, this team doesn't matter.
Don't talk about my old team that way.
What are you
right?
doing? What?
It's like you had a fraternity, but now you have a real job.
Yeah. Now you're in charge, and you don't. Hey, don't you talk about my mom? I know I pay my own lights and everything. What are we doing here, Josh?
Yeah, he's a little weird.
So that's what shocked me about that Gronkowski quote is he's talking about Josh McDaniels saying it's bleeping BS that the Raiders have to pay out Josh McDaniels' contract. And it's something like $65 million. Like, so it's another big amount. And he doesn't think it's fair. And I agree with him. I don't think it's right because Josh McDaniels didn't earn that $65 million. He was a loser, and he's always going to be a career loser moving forward when it comes to head coaching. Wes, I think you were spot on when you said he's never going to be head coaching.
Here's the thing, though. I don't feel bad for the Raiders because they put themselves in this position by hiring him in the first place.
I mean, the only time, Wes, your biases soak through so frequently, to be honest.
That's a lot of accusations already.
Oof, because
you only said one sentence. You had 10 minutes. You're going to give Wes one statement and then, biased. Ooh, blah, 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 blah.
Because here's why.
Because I thought he was garbage from the very beginning, and I thought you guys should have stuck with Rich Bisaccia. No.
If it comes to Oregon, if it comes to the Seahawks, the only team that Wes is truly honest with himself about is the Seattle Mariners. The Seattle Mariners will get Wes so spun up because he's actually honest and he's like introspective. And he will be like, they blew it again. They got me interested. They do it every year. Remember that?
Every year they have some sort of winning streak that makes me be like, oh, maybe they can do it this year.
Yeah.
No. Fool me again.
And you are so honest with those teams, and I totally get it. It's because, like you've said this on the show before, Wes, your full-on emotional attachment is to the Oregon Ducks. That is where you lose all sense of intelligence, all sense of what's the word I'm looking for here, perspective, right? And you just go all in with
If
Oregon.
one of our players just walked up to a referee after a bad call and punched him in the face, I'd be like, good.
Yeah, what did that ref do to deserve it?
Any other team, I'd be like, that guy's gone. Get rid of him. Fire him. I'd be like, no, he deserved it. That ref deserved it.
I'm so glad that was your
Punch him again.
I thought you were going to say something much worse.
Well, I'm glad that was never revealed. What was thought to be said. But speaking of your Ducks, they had a huge game, and I don't want to hear about Caleb Williams anymore. I gave my opinion on him crying to his parents in the stands, and how the Ducks and how he brought it on himself. But how did you feel about that game? Go ahead.
Well, I will talk about Caleb Williams because that's the first time I've really ever watched him play. Because Oregon didn't play him last year. He's like the only player worth a damn on that team. Like he was making some like really incredible plays, and it's hard when his offensive line sucks and he only has like one good receiver and they don't have a run game because he's like their entire offense. And he was making some incredible plays, like twisting, like throwing across his body, like 50 yards. Like it was like the guy's good. And that's the only reason why USC was able to make it to come back in the slightest. But Oregon, for the most part, controlled the entire game. I feel like we kind of started to get a little lazy in the fourth quarter. And that's when USC started to make a little bit of a comeback.
Passing yards.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd call that lazy.
Well, the defense got a little lazy in the fourth quarter. But Bo Nix, the first two passes he threw, it was like the first one was like 20 yards, like right like down the middle, and the dude just cut it like for the touchdown. And same with the next one. Like it was just unstoppable. It was great.
Yeah, we don't have to key in too much on that game because Oregon really did. Yes, it got closer than it needed to be, but if you watch that game, Oregon blew them out. Like Oregon boat raced them from the very beginning of the game.
Yeah, the predictor was like 100% since the halftime.
Yeah, it was a big game. Now, we always talk about how the Pac-10 eats itself, right? And right now there's two teams that really stand out. and it's Oregon and Washington. Can Oregon and Washington do what they do, meet in the in the championship game, and decide this? But Josh, you did play football as a Ute.
Yeah.
And what's the rule about playing? What do you play till?
What do you play till? I think you play till the whistle.
You play till the whistle. And Wes, and the other team I just mentioned, Washington, in their game against Utah, did we have some players not playing through the whistle?
Oh, no.
Yeah. Got the cornerback. He picked it off, and then he was running it back for a pick six, and he dropped it at the 2-yard line.
So casually. Primetime status.
He was like, oh, yeah, I'm the best. Oh. And then I was watching the game, and I was like, I think he just dropped it. And then I couldn't tell because like it switched to like a replay or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it showed touchdown across the screen.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I really hope someone picked that up. And sure enough,
That's one of those things like
jumped on it.
that man's gonna need a little bit of therapy for a little while. Talk about
And
that.
It's funny because the last time I remember seeing that happen, it was Utah versus Oregon, and Utah dropped it at the 1-yard line, and Oregon took it back 99 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah, and for me, we were talking about this in the production meeting. Deshaun Jackson did it 3 times in his career, right? He was like famous for it. He did it at Cal.
How do you not lose after the first time?
Yeah,
Or learn after the first time?
Yeah,
Like-
how do you not stop doing it? So he did it once at Cal, and then he did it 2 more times with the Eagles. And I almost think it was called Deshaun Jacksoning for a while there, where it's just like, why do players keep doing this? Why do they keep dropping the ball? Like, you can wait till you get into the painted area to showboat. Like, and I love the showboat. I love the celebrations.
Yeah.
I'm somebody that thinks the ref should let him
I'm
do it.
so tired
Yeah, I
of
love
like I'm so tired of them calling like flags for I was at the Seahawks game, and I think they called it against the Seahawks or something like that because they spun the ball. I was like,
No.
Yes.
Act like you've been there.
stupid.
I'm all about that. Act like you've been there. What you got to do is you score a touchdown, you give it to a child, you smoke a cigarette, take a shot of whiskey, go back to the bench. Just like in 1963.
A little
John,
Kenny
like-
Stabler? We call that the Kenny Stabler.
Just smoke a cigarette with your helmet on the way back to the bench. That's your celebration.
When the water boy or girl comes over to you and hands you the water, you throw it out of the way and you pick up your beer.
You give her a big old slopping. Yes.
The worst offender of all this though was several years ago. It was an LSU game. The punter faked it. He was an Australian guy. He faked it, ran it in for a touchdown. And then when he was at like the 4-yard line, he like kind of like lifted his arms up or whatever, like not even like above his shoulders, just like flared him out a little bit as he ran in, kind of like you do as you're like finishing a race or something like that.
Ooh.
And they flagged him and called it back.
Ooh.
And
touchdown?
here's the best part though. Yeah, the whole touchdown. They called the touchdown back
I don't know.
because he wasn't in the end zone. The worst part is the SEC used it in like promotional materials for like years afterwards, and it's
not do
like
that?
kind of no, like as in like highlight reels,
Wow.
and it's the same thing with like the big hits that like the NFL throws flags for.
Yeah,
It's like that was a big hit,
Yeah.
but then they use it like in a highlight package. It's like,
Yeah.
and it's like
His
you gotta flag for
collarbone
that.
broke. But whatever. That
Yeah.
reminds me though, you remember back in
And the guy got like a $50,000 fine, but we're still gonna show the hit and highlight.
you
reel.
remember like I want to say mid 90s when like the straight leg run the end zone was like a
Yeah.
big deal. Remember
Yeah.
that? That
Yeah.
was fun.
The prime time or
What was it prime time?
Yeah,
Shout out
that
prime
was
time.
the neon Dion high stepping.
They're so cool.
I don't know what's happening. I've already apologized for the Texans, but do you think the Panthers, Wes, look at?
I
the
think you
Houston
need to
Texans-
apologize for all of your other stupid thoughts.
Okay.
I think the Panthers need to apologize
like-
for still being a team.
Are the Buckeyes
That's
still
fair.
terrible? Do you still think the Buckeyes are terrible?
yes,
They're
yeah,
dumb.
100%. Like that. What you think they're good because they beat Michigan State? Is
They're a
that where
top
we're
10
at?
team. They're a top 10 team. I don't know what else to
Is
say.
this how this show works? We just argue about like who's cool?
We're not arguing at all.
We should do a comic book
Wes-
show about
Wes
like,
is trying to
you
work
think
things
Superman's cooler than Wolverine?
Wes is trying to work some things in because he's very wrong about James Franklin being the greatest coach in the Big Ten. But
Again, I never
Dang,
said that.
last
Play
word,
back the
man.
tape. Play back
But-
the tape. Never said that.
But on to the point I was trying to make, Wes, do you think the Panthers look at the Texans and they're just envious because they took Bryce Young over CJ Stroud, or do you think that Bryce Young is going to work out in the end?
I don't know. Bryce Young maybe he's a slow learner and maybe he's just like a project and he's going to be really good. But right now he looks doo-doo.
I think their scouting department, and I've already admitted I was wrong about CJ Stroud. All right, he's the one good Buckeyes quarterback in 40 years. But I just look at the Panthers scouting department sitting in a rocking chair, rocking back and forth like, I'm gonna get fired. I'm gonna get fired every time they watch CJ Stroud throw for 400 yards and a
Just
game-winning
whittling.
touchdown. Yeah, just ready because he's now. What is this? His third comeback of the season? His third fourth quarter comeback of the season. His third 400-yard game, and this was against Joe Cool. This was against Joe Burrow's Bengals, which is wild. And you know what else is wild? I think the Texans are in second place in their division right now.
I think the Texans might win their division.
Like, you think they're better than Jacksonville?
It's going to be close.
Jacksonville did lay an egg against San Francisco. Now, are you
They
ready
played
to
like
admit
trash.
that San Francisco is one of the best teams in the NFL when healthy?
When did I ever say they weren't?
When I said I think San Francisco 49ers are the best team in the NFL, you took objection to that. You
That was
didn't
at the
think they
beginning
were.
of the season.
Okay. So
I
hold
later
on.
recanted after like week 4. Granted, they did play like trash for 3 weeks in a row, so
But they were hurt.
I don't know.
Is my point. They were hurt. They lost Trent Williams. And did
Excuses.
You really
Excuses.
quick, really quick though. Do you know how important Trent Williams is? Because did you get to watch this game against the Jags?
No.
There was a run where
I was watching the Seahawks.
There was a run where Trent Williams pulls, right? And he's running down the field at the quarterback, and the quarterback looks at big Trent Williams and looks at McCaffrey behind Trent Williams, and he turns and runs the other direction, away from Trent Williams. And then Trent Williams was asked, yeah, Trent Williams is, you know what his nickname is, Josh? The
Tell
Silverback.
me. The Silverback. Is that not better than Beast Mode? Dang.
He is a big, scary man. And the quarterback
That's
literally
borderline racist.
looks at him. Well, he's had that nickname since he was a little kid, apparently. He
Doesn't
gave
matter.
it to himself.
Those kids were racist.
But he was asked about this after, and he says, I've never had that happen before. I've never had somebody look at me and turn and run the other direction. And I'm sitting here like, I mean, I don't blame him. What am I going to do?
I mean,
You're
I don't think
120 pounds.
maybe he just doesn't realize it because, I've had people walk away from me in a dodgeball match, like not even the same ranks, but like, oh no, I'm going to go on the other side of the court. I'm sure he's had it. He just like is being humble or doesn't realize it. Someone's run away from that fool his whole life, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if I'm a 175-pound cornerback and 375-pound Trent Williams is running at me, I might have to turn and go the other direction too.
For real.
You're going to be turning that other direction, holding your butt cheeks.
Yeah, I'm just exactly
Clenching.
You're gonna end up on a highlight reel. Josh is right. You're gonna be the one. You're gonna be the indention from like those old football movies where somebody gets so hard they leave an indention. You will be the literal embodiment of that. You will be the indention in the term.
I'll be hoping that I have dark pants on.
Deadpool red, baby.
Now, the last couple of things I want to get to: Arizona and their rounding error.
Seahawks. Let's go. Hawks.
Seahawks won, and Geno Smith bailed me out in my fantasy football game. Geno Smith was a good. I dropped Lamar Jackson, picked up Geno, and that seemed to be the right move. And it was a bye week. Just don't worry, I'm not like losing Lamar Jackson forever. But
Lamar Jackson played. What are you talking about?
no, I dropped him off my team to pick up Geno for that game.
What about LeVar Burton?
Yeah, what about LeVar? Why isn't he hosting Jeopardy? Arizona is now saying they're going to make draconian cuts in every department to include most of their varsity teams because they're like $250 million in debt because of what their accountants did to them.
Okay,
That's
but
a lot.
draconian is not the right word. That's wrong. You've already started poorly. Go on.
No, that's the words they've chosen.
I know, but
That's what they're and essentially what they're saying is they're going to cut sports teams. They're not going to have sports programs because they can't afford them. But you know the sports program they're going to keep? The football team. Of course.
What else is going? Let's guess.
So-
Let's go.
So here's the thing though.
Oh.
My question here is, if you're a student, do you ever go to Arizona University to take like a business class or a finance class again? Like, how are they accredited still after this goes on, after their university accountants leave $250 million or let their university go $250 million over? How does that
That's a
happen?
lot.
I could spin that as an accountant. Not me. I'm not an accountant. I'm just saying, like, if I were one, I would say, like, oh, this is how we stole a bunch of money from the college. Here's how you can too. You know, right?
I love it. You know what? Let's just leave it there. Let's leave it there. I love that. That response is the accountants. They're all going to be like, I don't know where the money went. Josh is like, in your bank account. That's Josh as a detective in a nutshell. I know who did it. Those guys.
Who's got
It's now in it's now in Crystal's bank account.
There you go. All right. Last but not least, Michigan and their rallying cry when it came to Jim Harbaugh being suspended for the remainder of the regular season. Josh, how fired up do you get if I just text you bet?
I want to bet. I don't care what it is. Let's go. Let's do it.
Well, then you're the perfect guy for the Midwest because everyone got behind this totally lame rallying cry of bet. And then
I love it.
They proceeded to go in and beat Wes's Penn State James Franklin Nittany Lions. Hold on.
Okay.
I'm giving you
So
a hard
I don't
time.
even know what you're talking about, honestly, but I'm still on board with what I said before. Like
Yeah, you're fired up? So for me, I just thought it was the corniest thing, right? And the person that started it was their quarterback, okay? Who proceeded to go out and go 7 for 8 for 60 yards. Mr. McCarthy.
They ran it like 40 times in a row. They just ran it down their throats.
At, Wes. That's what I was getting at. And Fox Sports rated it like their highest rated or most watched football game. But I was like, I feel so bad for everyone that watched that football game. Because it was literally between Penn State and Michigan, about 400 runs in a row.
Well, it's funny because the next game on Fox right after that was Washington versus Utah. And everyone was like, oh, this is a breath of fresh air after what we watched. Complete different opposite game.
It was literally the worst thing I have ever. I was like, I can't watch this.
I loved it for some sick reason. It was like
you're a masochist. Because
you've
been
honestly,
on one lately where you just want to fight everyone, and running is the embodiment of you fighting everyone physically.
Well, and I feel like everyone's just like, oh, Michigan's cheating, and I'm like, it's really not that big of an advantage, especially when coaches are sharing with their friends, other coaches, like their own like signs that they like took. So I'm like, where's the actual competitive advantage? And so I'm just like, I don't freaking care about this anymore. I hope Michigan just smashes everyone. I hope they smash Ohio State in the Big Ten. I hope they win the Big Ten championship. And then Tony Petitti, I hope Tony Petitti in the freaking Big Ten championship has to give Jim Harbaugh and Michigan the trophy. And he just has his tail tucked between his legs. And I hope Jim Harbaugh just punches him in the face and takes the trophy.
I hope he just tucks that tail.
And then you know what? If Oregon's not in the playoff, I hope Michigan wins it all.
All right, I love
Oregon's
it. There you
so
go,
racist.
Wes. Welcome to the darkest side of darkest things. Just anarchy, and Ohio State not being good. But
they are. But Michigan's better.
All right, so Josh, what do we have to look forward to here in the coming weeks on Gore? I know we've got the episode with Brooker's return, right, for this month, but or actually 2 episodes. But then we've got some cool stuff going on with, I believe, hip hop and fast food. Can you talk to us a little bit? You got 2 minutes.
Your mom.
I got 2 minutes. First of all, your mom is the topic of discussion every day. Brooke and I, Brookerson and I have been speaking about time and place and the best and worst places to do things. That's coming up. And then we got a bracket starting. We're forming the bracket. We're building the bracket for the cream of the crop. And that is the cream of the crop of fast foods. We're going to find out what the best type of fast food and then determine the best fast food establishment, period. Wes, I hope you will join us in this for at least one Gorp
I love
episode.
my fast food.
Yeah.
So I think you'll have a great opinion. I think this might be the greatest debut for you for the Gorp. And then we also have a hip hop opinions episode or two coming, and it's going to be led by myself and Angelucci Stefano about some hip hop. Two white guys who claim to know a lot about hip hop, and as well as some guests. So we have a big quarter, a physical quarter coming for Gorp.
New
Thanks
hip
for
hop
having me out.
sucks.
Okay, so we're gonna have rules for that. There's gonna be rules for people who like pull something that no one has a context of. You have to really present your case for something like that because everyone knows McDonald's, but no one knows Burgerville in the Pacific Northwest, right?
Or Griff's.
You know
Burgerville's good. I know
No,
Burgerville.
Dope.
Oh,
Griff's
West
is
knows
dope,
Burgerville.
dope down south. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
there's gonna be rules. We're gonna put rules in place. It's gonna be a big deal. We're talking tacos. We're talking European stuff. We're talking Asian stuff. Fast food. We'll find out who's the best.
I
Anyway.
appreciate it, and that's where we'll leave it. If you need any more of this information, you can find both Gorp, you can find Popcorn and Beers, and you can find the Sad Fan at the Sad Fan Podcast Network on YouTube. You can find all of our shows across every podcast platform, to include Spotify and Apple Music. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review, and we will see you next week.